to a brand new series in addition to the 2025-26 season lineup. We are introducing 5-star values. That's right. We have 3 True Values, which releases every Thursday throughout the season, where we will talk all things college basketball, the big storylines. Of course, right now we're in the middle of our preview series. Of course, if you want to check out the ACC, Missouri Valley A10 Conversations, that is already up on the podcast feed or on YouTube, wherever you watch the show. But in addition to that, we are adding 2 new series. And so want to introduce one of those today. 5-star values. Will go through all things recruiting. I will work alongside Rivals Jamie Shaw to provide you this content. We're going to talk first about the 2025 class, the incoming freshmen, the guys who are just getting ready to make their debut. Then we'll work our way into 26, 27, and 28 recruits throughout the course of the year. We are going to make sure that if you want knowledge on the top players in the country, you have access to it. We will give you breakdowns of their game. We will talk about their ceilings, their floors, some about their recruitments. We will have all of that here for you to enjoy on the podcast feed. The other new podcast edition that we will be bringing in is 3 True Values Big Board, which is going to take you through the NBA draft conversation. So this week, talking about the 2025 class, incoming guys to college basketball. What impact will they have in the collegiate game this season? Next week, we will talk a little bit with you about some players around the country who could have breakout years. A lot of returners in this discussion to make their way up NBA draft boards. Throughout the season, we will alternate. These podcasts will come out on Tuesdays at noon, same time, just a different day from your typical 3 True Values episodes. So enjoy the new series of content. On the other side, we will introduce this new concept with Jamie Shaw from Rivals. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to support the podcast. We look forward to this upcoming season with you. Welcome back as we start talking about the top recruiting classes in 2025. Obviously, these are incoming freshmen. We're less than a month away from seeing them on the court playing college basketball, and that's why it's time to talk about expectations. What are we looking for from the top freshmen in this class? We're going to go in a unique format here. We're going to talk a little bit team by team. Some of the teams that have the top recruiting classes, which players from that group are expected to have the biggest impact. Of course, we can't start this conversation without starting at Duke, who has the number 1 recruiting class according to Rivals. And we bring in Rivals Jamie Shaw once again here. Really excited to be part of this now repeat kind of consistent podcast platform with him. Jamie, how you doing? And you ready to talk some actual basketball, getting ready here on the hardwood?
James, it's that time of year, man. It's very exciting. The anticipation is building. This is probably set to be one of the more anticipated college basketball seasons I can remember, just because of the parity. There's so much parity right now within the college basketball game, and that leads to a lot of excitement. So right now, all the conversations are interesting to listen to, because everybody's got different opinions. Everybody's seeing different stuff. There's so many new faces all around the country, with the transfer portal being what it was last year, but also this 2025 class being really good. So the talent is dispersed throughout the country. There's not a clear-cut number 1 team. There's not a clear-cut number 1 player. And there's a lot of question marks, and that leads to a lot of excitement. So when there's question marks, there's opinions. When there's opinions, there's excitement. There's a lot of people talking, and everybody's listening, and it's just a fun time of year right now.
Yep, for sure. let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Duke. Let's talk about the freshmen that they bring in. Obviously, one of the blue blood homes of the one and done over the years. We know that Shire has got an interesting system now. I think it's a real uh, kind of cut and copy mold of star player and then length, size, defense, shooting around it. That's what he wants. That's what he's looking for around his superstar. His superstar this year, there's no question, is Cam Boozer. How much do you like Cam Boozer? What are your expectations for him heading into the season?
Well, it's hard not to appreciate Cam Boozer's body of work. I mean, he's probably the most accomplished high school player that I've covered in my decade plus being in the industry, and possibly even going back further than that. You look at what he's done: three-time Peach Jam champion, two-time FIBA gold medal, or two or three-time FIBA gold medalist. You have National Player of the Year honors. You have four-time state champion, just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's been MVP of a lot of these championship runs that he's had. Throughout the high school process at every level, he's been a 20-10 guy. Just a no nonsense, no frills kind of game, meat and potatoes of what he brings to the table. And it's hard not to appreciate what that is. It's hard not to appreciate the fact that he's done that at every single level, every step across the way.
Yeah, he's a guy who I'm really interested. Can he average 20 and 10 at the college level? Because if he does that, I think we start getting into bigger conversations when we talk about the NBA draft next season, which we will do over the next few weeks. But he's got that potential. I mean, he has done it, like you said, at every level, every stop he's been at. He is productive. He gets to the glass. He's shown some ability to be a playmaker even from that forward spot, putting up some assists in different competitions. So I think that he's got such a well-rounded game, such a game that translates to whatever level of basketball that he's playing. That it's one of the most sure things in college basketball this season, despite him being an incoming freshman, in my eyes.
For sure. And you think about it, he's also super young for the class as well. So he's coming in with these expectations. But the beautiful part about it is could he average 20 and 10? He probably could. But he's not going to need to with what this Duke team has around him. Not only do they have this incoming class of freshmen, but they also have some returners that are going to have the spotlight on them as well. So could Cam Boozer average 2010? He probably could. But with this Duke team, the makeup of it and everything, while he will probably most likely be a central hub of what the offense is going to do, he is not going to need to necessarily average that 20 and 10. He's going to need to bring efficiency. He's going to meet decision making and all that type. What he does at his best is he understands leverage and angles incredibly well. He's naturally strong, huge hands, broad shoulders, naturally strong player. But how he gets his work done is not necessarily with the flash. It's not necessarily with the high flying stuff. It's groundwork. He understands leverage. He gets great leverage on every play, and he understands angles, getting his work done early to be able to find the positioning in order to create advantages for his team.
Yeah, for sure. And let's talk about a little bit of the rest of that roster here, because he is not the only big time freshman who will be on campus. His brother, Caden Boozer, is a player that I'm really, really fascinated by because he's got that conductor in him. He's got that just kind of metronome at the top of the offense. It seems like he gets things organized. He played with some of the best players in the country, and he always felt in control of what was happening when I watched him. A player that's really fascinating to me that I think is in the conversation to overachieve for where he was ranked. And obviously he's ranked there based on some of the upside, some of the things, but man, it feels like a sure thing what he provides this Duke team. And I'm interested to see between him and Caleb Foster what that distribution of minutes is as well.
For sure. Caden, all the stuff that Cam Boozer won, Caden was his teammate.
Yeah.
So he was the point guard. He might not have been the starting point guard on some of those favorites. It might not be all this stuff, but he was on all those same teams, won all those same trophies, championships that Cam won. So that's not to be discounted of what Caden brings to the table. I think the best word to describe Caden's game is steady. He's somebody that has a high floor. You know what you're going to get from him. He runs the team, runs the show, and plays effective, meaningful basketball. He's got great positional size at the lead guard position. and he's able to, like you said, conductor. He's able to get his team into sets. He's able to defend with physicality, um, and he's been in some really big moments in his lifetime and performed.
Yep. Nicholas Kamania, another one who I think could give this team some offensive punch. Feels like there's two schools of thought on him that I'm hearing from people around when I just talk the game. One is he's one of the unsure things on this team. What is he going to become? We're not really sure exactly his role, where he fits in. The other one is people who just kind of assume, oh, he'll fill the Con Knipple role. I think that's a little unfair. But what have you seen from him that does translate into this Duke roster?
For sure. I think every team that is loaded with talent, every team that has an abundance of alphas needs the connector. I don't think the Con Knipple stuff is fair because their games are they're not alike.
Right.
You know, Kamini is taller. Knipple is more of an alpha scorer. Kamini is more of a connector. I think what he'll bring to this team is when things get going kind of crazy, he'll be the calming factor. He's able to dribble, shoot, and pass to an advantage. You can line him up in multiple spots in the half court and run some offense through him. He's an excellent passer, sees the floor incredibly well. He can knock down some shots as well. Tough physical player, diving on the floor for loose balls. He rebounds well, understands all of that type of game, connecting the pieces together. The question with Nick is going to be the athleticism. It's going to take an adjustment period for his athleticism to get used to kind of the speed of the game, the length, and all that as he plays on. And Duke, man, they're not ducking smoke in the offseason. They're coming in with an incredible schedule. So he's going to be indoctrinated pretty quickly into it. How quickly he gets into the big minutes will be how quickly he gets adjusted to the speed of the game and the athleticism. But with that said, with all of the stuff going on around them, the Caleb Fosters, the Cam Boozers, the Isaiah Evans, all of those pieces around him, the Dame Sarr, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, he connects it all together. He's a guy who can score for himself. He's a guy that can move the ball. He's a guy that can run some offense through in the half court, put him at the elbows, and run some actions off of him and all that as well as he reads the defense. So he's the connecting piece that kind of calms everything together and grounds what they have going.
Yeah, Dame Sarr, you mentioned there. He feels like kind of the opposite side of this conversation when we talk about that wing spot. Who's going to get a lot of minutes there? Kamini is going to be in competition at times with his teammate Dame Sarr for that role, and he comes, of course, from the international level. I said on an episode last week with Connor O'Neill that I almost forget that Dame Sarr is not one of their transfers because he played at a professional level. He's got a lot of high level experience at the top end, experience with Barcelona in Europe. And he was a guy who wasn't just out there on the court in garbage minutes or in their small games. He was a guy who they were using for defensive substitutions as a teenager playing professional basketball. So that tells me a lot about what they're going to use him for, what he's going to be expected to provide early on as he looks to round out his game into a 3-and-D model that the NBA will love.
So when I was at practice a couple of weeks ago, watching, I was sitting with a couple of NBA guys, and we were sitting there talking. Walking out onto the court, Dame Sarr looks exactly like an NBA, like how you would exactly draw an NBA wing. Mm-hmm. He has the length, the positional size, he has the athletic fluidity, and seeing him move through drills and move through the kind of ramp up period of the practice, you see the physical tools, you see the athleticism, and you also can see the jump shot. Running through drills, uncontested jump shots. I mean, the balance points are beautiful. He high arcing release and consistent release from every level and all that stuff. Transitioning from the drill session to the game session, there's a little bit of inconsistency there. Mm. So watching him is going to be kind of like Kamini, but in a different way, gaining the confidence level, getting up to the speed of the game and all that. He's got a world of talent. He's got the upside. If he hits his top end upside, he's got first round ability. He's got lottery ability. He's got all of that in the bag. Now it's going to be the ramp up period of getting used to the speed of the game, getting into his sets, getting into where he's getting his shots at, and the comfort level of getting into those opportunities as well. The athleticism is there. I would have to imagine defensively being aggressive into the passing lanes and being able to switch like Duke likes to do on their defensive end of the floor, is all within the realm of possibility for him. Being able to self-create off the bounce is the next step for him. But he's got the tools, and it's going to be fascinating to see because the realm of outcome for Dame Sarr this season is pretty big.
Yeah.
The floor, getting ramped up and everything, but the ceiling of what he brings to the table could be pretty massive, especially if he gets going, making the shots and everything, gets downhill, finishes at the rim, sees a couple go through. There's a high upside there. I would expect him to probably be in the starting lineup and continue to have opportunities to work through the ramp-up period for him to be able to build confidence as the season progresses on. What we see from Dame Sarr in January could be very different from what he gives us in November as the season goes on. And another beautiful thing about that, kind of like we said with Cam Boozer earlier, they're not going to need Dame to come in and score 18 a game. Right. They have the depth and they have the talent around him to be able to ramp him up and get him comfortable. Let him see some success first. Let him fail a little bit, come back with some success, and continue to grow within his game to ramp up to what they will need from him later in the season. But the upside of what he brings, just the look and the makeup of what Dame Sarr has, checks a lot of boxes at the highest level with the top end outcomes possibly being there.
For sure. Sebastian Wilkins, we'll wrap up here with our Duke conversation. I think he's the big wild card. I mean, he's the one that is the biggest unknown, right? Late addition to the class. Some people tell you, hey, like he's got all the tools. He's got the body type. He's got everything you're looking for. He's just got to put it together. And if he puts it together, that's the kind of thing that could take this Duke team from in the mix to, oh, wow, they're separating from the field. If he can really get things going and add some deep depth to this Duke roster, look out, because they could be scary.
Yeah, no, Sebastian Wilkins, he brings a physicality to the table. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He can defend some. He can do all that, but he brings a physicality factor to this team. And another beautiful thing about that, he's going to be backing up most likely at the 4, which is Cam Boozer's position. So again, they're not necessarily going to need him this season to be an all-world type of player. Just getting comfortable within the flow of playing in ACC level basketball, Power 5 basketball. If you remember, he was originally part of the next class and classified up. He was a reclass guy to begin with, so he went back to his original class, but he was playing most of his career as a 26, and then classifying up into this 25 class. So, the expectation of him is to be a multi-year player at Duke. And the expectations for him this season might not be necessarily as high. So anything that he brings to the table this season would probably be a plus. But there is a bright future for him on down the line as he continues to grow, get experience, and come back and year over year have the growth and experience.
Yeah, we move on to the Kentucky recruiting class. Smaller recruiting class because, of course, Mark Pope did bring in quite a few transfers to provide that immediate impact as well. But the 3 guys that they got, I thought were really fascinating. Jasper Johnson, he headlines it. He's the one who has that electric scoring punch from the guard position. I think it's going to be really fascinating to see what kind of path he takes when it comes to his potential, because this is something that we've talked about a lot when we discuss what players become. At this age, they're still developing. They're still finding out what kind of player they're going to be. When I watch him play, he's got a lot of different pieces to his game. Does he want to be the pure scorer who just goes out there and gets buckets? Does he want to be a guy who is getting into the paint and develops a little bit more of that kick out ability in addition to his athleticism helping him get to his spots to score? What is the next step for Jasper Johnson as he develops his game at the college level?
Streamlining his game. As you mentioned, he's got the tools. He's got deep shooting range. He's got tons of confidence in his game. Now it's just about kind of really consolidating it down. As he continued throughout high school, his confidence continued to gain, and there became a lot of inefficiencies later on in his high school career, with not necessarily knowing his spots on the floor and how to get to them. That's going to be key. We saw him at this summer's U19 USA, and his game was streamlined. He wasn't taking the wild, erratic 32-foot jump shots. He was taking the one dribble pull up, getting to the elbow, knocking it down. He was taking the catch and shoots from the corner. When his game is that way, it really opens up the spacing on the floor. He pulls gravity naturally with his game. And then once he kind of consolidates things, learns where his game is most effective at, then he can add to it, showing the athleticism. Then he can add to it, maybe getting something off the bounce going right. He does have that athletic feel. He does have that length, and he does have that shooting ability. Now it's all about putting it all together and finding the efficiency within his game, which he struggled with a little bit later in his high school career. So it's going to be all about Mark Pope finding it within that system, consolidating things down, and getting the very best out of Jasper Johnson, which, again, as you mentioned, the upside with that's pretty high.
Yeah, there's a lot to like there. It's putting the pieces together, and he's going to be given an opportunity to do that. I think that Mark Pope is a really good coach for him because it's all about team first. It's all about culture. And Mark Pope, I think, is going to find that balance of give him the leash, let him go out there and do his thing. But once it starts to have that negative impact, if he gets to those inefficient looks, if it starts to impact the points on the scoreboard, it starts to impact, the lead that they have in a certain game, he's got the guys to go to, the veterans who are just out there. You put in Denzel Aberdeen to replace him, and suddenly he's going to see what it looks like to just be the connector, to just work within the system. I like that for him. Malachi Moreno, another guy who's going to have a lot of opportunity to learn from those around him. I don't think he's going to get big minutes at the center, especially as the season goes on, and we talk more about Jaden Quaintance, but an interesting center prospect who I think has the potential to really add to his game and become somebody that we're talking about at a high level, whether it's college or at the next level.
So for me, Moreno was the headliner of this class coming in, and I think that he's got enough of a game where you mentioned, I think that he could possibly force his way into some rotational minutes growing as the season goes. Coming into this, coming out of high school, Moreno was in my seeings and my viewings of him, rebounding. I saw him with multiple 20 rebound games throughout the course of his high school career. Of course, you sit there and say he's 7 foot, biggest guy on the floor, and all that type of stuff, but it's still
right.
Easy for a 7-footer to get pushed off their spot in high school, for a guy to build the leverage with him, get underneath him, push him away, get it out of position, and all that. He still rebounded the basketball in traffic, strong two hands, and that's a huge factor. He's got some natural touch. He has to clean up a little hitch in his jump shot, but he's got some natural touch. He's got great hands around the basket, finished left hand, right hand. He started to develop a counter off of those go-to moves later in his high school career. I think there's a very real opportunity as he continues to gain strength, as he continues to gain confidence in what he's got going, to be able to force his way onto some dependable minutes as the season goes along with Malachi Moreno. Now, because of that rotation, Brandon Garrison, Jaden Quaintance, all these people around him, I'm not necessarily certain that one and done is in his future.
Right.
However, year two could be very interesting. And I'm not saying that one and done's out of the question, because it very well could be, because he has the understanding of how to play defense. He has an understanding of the move his feet. He can finish and all that stuff. There's some upside there as a 7-footer who rebounds, defends, walls up as the season goes along. But I say all that to sit there and say Malachi Moreno, I think, is somebody who could outplay expectations in his time at Kentucky.
For sure. And they round out their group of freshmen with Braden Hawthorne, who I think is really interesting for the future. I kind of think that we put him in the same bucket as Sebastian Wilkins, where it's like, if you get something from him and it can add to what this team is, you're going to be blown away. You're going to be happy with what you get out there, because he is another one of these young guys coming up. He broke out late, joins the class, and we're going to find out what he is over the course of this year, but also the years to come, as he looks to make the most of his 6'8" frame on the wing.
Braden Hawthorne is one of those guys to go ahead, as your NBA draft stuff, to go ahead and mark his name down and monitor the development. Mm-hmm. The breakout could come at any point in time. There's a situation where he was a 6'2" guard early in his high school career, sprouted to 6'8", kept the guard skills, and now here we are, a young player trying to grow into his body and kind of figure out how he moves while having deep range, ability to create off the bounce, and athleticism. As he figures out his body and frame, there's a huge upside there. So it might not be year one, but year two, go ahead and mark his name down on the NBA draft watch list and all that stuff because he checks a lot of those boxes. It's just all about when he comes into his frame, when he comes into the feel of what he brings, when he comes into understanding his body and then developing that, getting stronger, and then getting adjusted to the speed of the game. There's a lot there. Like I said, it might be year 1, year 2, year 3, whatever it is, but when it hits,
Yeah.
he's going to open a lot of eyes, and it's going to be very intriguing. The upside is so high, and don't know when it's going to hit. Don't know when that's going to happen. It sounds like, talking to people around the program, that he's coming along very nicely, and the expectations are again, not for right now, but the expectations long term are very high for him, and he's continuing to progress. But when that hits, it's going to be very intriguing, eye opening to watch.
Yeah, he's a guy. I mean, I said it there when I was introing him, but I've literally got on my draft board, I've got just a little section that's just him and Sebastian Wilkins, and I'm just watching. I'm just waiting. Maybe I have to copy and paste it to the 2027 file, but right now it's just sitting there. I'm just going to wait and see what they're able to produce this season. We'll move on across the SEC and talk a little bit about Nate Ament at Tennessee, because man, is he an interesting player. Already putting on some muscle, putting on that weight that we love to hear about in the off season. I'm so fascinated now to see him on the court. I want to see some real game action from this guy because the hype continues to grow and grow and grow. I feel like the more we hear about him, the more that you start to just anticipate what you're going to see on the court.
Well, it seems to be throughout the community, he's one of the more divisive players coming into the season. You have people saying that there's no chance he's a lottery, no chance at one and done. He'll come back for year 2. You have people talk about him possibly pushing for number 1. And there's a wide ranging within the draft community expectations or anticipation for him. My personal opinion, I've seen Nate, sophomore year of high school, the growth that he had. He's been a top 50 guy ever since the very beginning of our rankings, moving up to top 10 for the final 2 years of his high school career. And still, even starting his senior season as a top 10 player, the growth that he had throughout that year just kind of took off. It just took off. He 52 games played, traveling all across the country, trying to find every game, every matchup he could have, hitting the all-star circuit, all that. And then the summer, playing for the USA team this past year, he wanted every bit of smoke possible. He took every matchup personal, and he came out on the other side of all the games. That's a lot of backstory, not talking about his game at all. His game, 6'10" listed. He's added 20 pounds already. He's a central hub of an offense. You put the ball in his hands, and he creates offense for his teammates. I would not be surprised to see him as an initiator in the pick and roll. I would not be surprised to see him and Jacoby Gillespie playing a very fun 2-man game, possibly with Jacoby shooting, pulling gravity, and Nate in the pick and roll with Akpar in the dunker spot, and letting Nate make reads. That was the most intriguing thing for me early on in his career, was his ability to make the quick processing, his ability to make the read off of a live dribble, on target, on time passing, left hand, right hand, pitching it around and all that. Then as he developed the scoring acumen, he developed the jump shot, he developed the physicality, getting downhill to the rim and finishing at the basket. Then he became a well-rounded player, and he just kept growing. Now he's listed 6'10", 200 pounds. You see the muscle that he's adding as well. Rick Barnes, talking with people around the program, is incredibly excited about him. The upside he thinks is high. There's been stuff talked around about best freshman since Kevin Durant. All these accolades being talked about and seen. Nate Ament is a competitor. Nate Ament is somebody that might take a lump and come right back the next game, next play even, and find success. That's just in his character, is what he's been throughout the entire high school career that we've seen. Very excited about what he brings to Tennessee here. Tennessee runs an efficient offense. While they're slow pace, they score. They get the shots that they want within the flow of the offense. Very eager to see how Nate is used within that offense. What kind of on-ball presence he brings. What kind of initiation stuff is he the primary stuff, the secondary stuff. Very interested to see the creativity that they have surrounding Nate Ament within the flow of that offense, and very interested to see how he streamlines his game. What does he do? What does he do with the 10, 11 shots that he gets? Where are they coming from, and how does he get to them, and all that? I think there's a huge ceiling. I'm more on the side of he could push for number 1, being in that top 3 area, and very excited to see what this Tennessee team brings, because I think that getting aside a little bit, I think him and Jacoby Gillespie could be two of the 5 best players within that league as the season ends. So I'm very to see what those two bring with the supporting cast of what Tennessee has. They finished in the top 5 in the final AP poll 3 of the last 4 years. I'm very eager to see what Rick Barnes does with Nate Ament, such a unique player. Talking to an NBA guy this past season at Hoop Hall, what do you think of Nate Ament? The NBA personnel guy response was, it's hard to compare him because there's just nobody out there like him. I'm very eager to see what that looks like in the SEC with Tennessee.
For sure. And he's a guy that I just love the Rick Barnes fit with him, because you look at what they've wanted to do, and it's kind of been surround them with defensive unit guys who can, play that Rick Barnes defense, and then one guy who's just going to go get buckets. Well, it feels like he's filling that Dalton Knecht, Chaz Lanier role when you look at this roster. Obviously, Jacoby Gillespie is going to provide a lot of offensive scoring punch as well, but it feels like they're going to throw him into that carry us on offense role. And for that kind of trust to be put in this player, really exciting. And I think that he's got, obviously the 6'10" guy who can move fluidly has more defensive upside than Dalton Knecht and Chaz Lanier. So I'm really excited to see what he can provide this Tennessee team. Amari Evans, another guy in the class, Dwayne Brown, Troy Henderson. We know that Tennessee likes to develop their talent, and so I'm not sure how much some of the freshmen get on the floor. We could see some redshirt candidates among that group, but this Tennessee team is going to be really, really good. Let's move on and talk, though, about Kansas, because Darren Peterson is coming, and the hype continues to grow for him as well. I feel like he has really put himself up in this conversation where people are excited, and I'm hearing people talk not just number 1 pick, but they're starting to throw around names that are big time in the history of basketball when they talk about Darren Peterson.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to sit here and see what type of year he's going to have. I think the impact that he has on college basketball is going to be huge this year. One, because it's Kansas, the blue blood, and you have the hype that Bill Self has been bringing upon Darren Peterson in this preseason. Darren Peterson is going to have high usage. That's how he plays. The ball is in his hand, and he has incredibly high usage throughout the course of a game. He's going to have the ball in his hand. He's going to take a lot of dribbles, and he's going to get in the pick and roll and try to get downhill into the teeth of the defense. Because of the usage, the numbers and stats are going to be high. You're going to see some big outputs with him, because a lot of the offensive stuff is going to run through him, whether it's his assists, whether it's his points, whether it's his free throws that he makes. He's going to have a lot of that happening. So I have no doubt in my mind there's going to be big numbers beside Darren Peterson's name this upcoming season. The interesting aspect is going to be, one, the shooting touch, the 3-point shooting and all that. How does that come around? Things would get a little flat in the high school year. Always been great in the mid-range. Always been able to finish within the teeth of the defense, and he would get a lot of his points from the free throw line. And as a pure scorer, if you don't see the first one go through, get to the free throw line, get a couple to go down, and that just builds your confidence and grows from there. Darren Peterson, possibly in the 2025 class, was better than anybody at getting to the free throw line consistently, and doing that from within the teeth of the defense. How he makes reads is going to be very interesting. He would have times where the secondary guy coming across the help defense would give him a little bit of trouble making the read out of the pick and roll and everything, and finishing at the rim and all that. So there's no doubt in my mind his usage is going to be high. He's going to have every opportunity, and there's going to be spacing around him as well. He's going to have a big man in Floyd Badunga running the pick and roll with him. That's going to be able to pull gravity as a vertical floor spacer as well. Darren Peterson's going to have a big year. I have no doubt in my mind, big year. Possible National Player of the Year type stuff. Possible first-team All-American type stuff, depending on how his efficiencies happen and how he grows in that level. One thing about Darren Peterson as well is he competes. He is not afraid to get out there, put it all out there, get on the defensive end and the passing lanes, being aggressive on that end, and compete. Now when it comes from college to the NBA, it's about tightening the things up, getting the decision-making down, reading the second defender, getting the jump shot, being able to pull gravity, seeing how he touches the paint without a screen, etc. For college this upcoming season, it could be very, very fun to watch. There could be, I don't want to say historic numbers, but there could be some very high numbers that are put into play here. There could be some big scoring totals put into play here from him. And it gets the feel that Bill Self's going to allow him a lot of rope to begin with,
Yep.
and continue to ride that kind of throughout. And how good Kansas is this season, I think, will fall on the shoulders of Darren Peterson and what he does. And there should be expectations for him to have a big year because he's got that talent in him. He's got the competitive nature in him. And he's going to figure it out quickly and then have the opportunity throughout. So Darren Peterson should be in for a pretty big season coming in for Kansas.
For sure. And I think that the thing that I'm most interested in, the thing that I want to watch is how much does he look like a point guard? Like we talk about being an initiator, we talk about high usage, but does he look like he is the point guard on the floor in the offense? Because I think that takes him to just that next level of, okay, this guy is somebody who can be that James Harden, that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, where the ball is in their hand and the offense is them. They create whatever this is. That just has another level of, I guess, just impact to me. If he's able to make it look like, okay, this is not just a shooting guard who has the ball. This is a point guard who is running the team out there on the court. That's what I think gets him into that conversation as number one pick. Start to talk about him running away with it, is if he can show that while having the big production that we know that he's going to put together. Really interested too, though, in his teammate Cole Rosario, who's going to play next to him. We know he can shoot the ball, and we know that if Peterson can reach these potential marks that we're discussing, he's going to get open looks. So he's a guy who I think could soar up in conversations, given what team he's playing for, the role that he's going to fill, and the potential to show off what he does well.
For sure. He's somebody, he also classified up. He classified back earlier in high school and classified up from 26 into the 25 class into his original class to go to Kansas. He has a lot of those tools. The low-hanging fruit comparison, obviously not one-to-one. We know how we do it on these, but Grayson Allen lineage. Think about that 6'3", 6'4", explosive guy who can make a jump shot and all that. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit comparison to think of archetype-wise with what Cole Rosario brings. Now it's just all about him making the shots, getting into the flow of the offense, getting caught up to the speed of the game, and figuring out his shots, getting his balance points right, and figuring out how to get to his spots on the floor. Where are his 6 shots going to come from within the flow of the game, and then maximizing the effort of those shots to get to the next level. Yes, he's got that incredible length. He's got that vertical pop. He's got the shooting touch. He's got all of that stuff within his game. How quickly does he get acclimated to the speed of it? There's a very real role. As we mentioned earlier, Darren Peterson, heavy pick and roll, Floyd Badunga putting pressure on the front of the rim. There's going to need to be spacing. There's going to need to be that. If Cole Rosario gets out there, there's a huge opportunity for him. If he's shooting 35, 36, 38, 40% from three, there's a huge opportunity for him to space that floor while also making noise, getting in the passing lanes, aggressively playing up the line, and then finishing with a couple big dunks because he is very athletic with at the rim as well. So there's opportunity there for Cole Rosario to really take a step and do that. It's just about going to be the efficiency of making the shots.
For sure. That class is rounded out with Samus Calderon, Bryson Tiller, who enrolled early, but he is part of this group. Paul Mbaya comes in internationally. There's a lot to like at Kansas, but that's all the time we have for today's show. Jamie, thanks for joining. Everybody, thank you for tuning in for 5-Star Values, our first episode of the season here. We'll have plenty more draft and recruiting content for you throughout the whole season, so stay tuned.
James, thank you very much, man. The season's right on us.
Yep.